Yo. Streaming on his birthday. What a workhorse, dude. So fucking true. Also, dude, I don't want to jinx it, but the static on my mic is way better. And the good news is I have no idea why. And by good news, I mean bad news because I don't know how to replicate it. I could like move it 2 feet and maybe it'll be back. Who knows? Happy birthday. Thank you. Little birthday yap. Yeah, I'm not going to be on for long. I just got back from hockey. And just got out of the shower. Feeling great. Did you win? It wasn't a game. Some skill work stuff. That interview is sick. Dude, it was so good. I'm so glad people liked it. I was kind of being Dobby about it. I like the fact that they didn't end up greenlighting the podcast idea was like, I was so sad. I just almost didn't even want to do the interview, but I'm glad I did because I think, I don't know this, but there's like a chance Blizzard might be more pro we can do a podcast thing in the future because of that. And maybe that needed to happen for that to happen, I guess. I hated the interview. The guy with the beard on the bottom spoke way too much. Bro, I said like maybe like 10 sentences. Come on, man. But you hated those 10 sentences, I'm imagining. That makes sense. Easily my favorite dev interview. It felt like you guys were just having a conversation. Not really. I feel like he was having a conversation with us, but in a good way. Yeah, it just needed to be a little longer. I mean, it was fine. It was great. Everything's great. Everything's awesome and nice. Wait, did Wowhead steal your content? Oh, I forgot that. I forgot about that bit. I forgot about that bit. The thing where that one guy did like an interview with some developer and then Wowhead just simply did their job by reporting the news. And then he like quote retweeted them and was like, you guys are fucking... Does anyone still have the tweet? These guys are fucking scumbags or something like that. It was so aggressive. It was so aggressive. Wait, Raider.io interview preview with Morgan Day. Non-group buffs in season 2. Wait, what? Oh, there's more interviews. Great. Do you guys think I should get my teammate Magnus Carlsen to teach me something about chess? That'd be a fun stream. Skarzard is a fantastic representative for the WoW dev team. Great balance of being for the devs while also being relatable as a WoW player. Yeah, I actually completely agree with that. Specifically, I hope what people took from that interview, especially in a couple, I re-listened to it today, a couple anecdotes from him proved that the way that he thinks about the game is the way you think about the game. He was like, we made some of these changes, and I remember playing the game and being like, I didn't like this, you know? So like, I mean, I think a lot of people who are like anti-dev, and I know a lot of it is like some jobless, like internet cretin behavior, you know? But like some of it is just people, I don't know, they never hear anything from devs for good reason, which we talked about. And because of that, their game isn't perfect, right? And it's their game. So like they end up with this really negative view of developers. They're not like people who also play the game and enjoy it. You frequently see people say like the devs don't even play this fucking game. They're so fucking stupid. Fuck. You know? And what he did was he came on this podcast and gave a lot of nuanced, interesting information, but he also just came across as someone who just really likes WoW that also happens to be working on it. And I think for a lot of those people, and maybe some of those people can't be saved, you know, they're just going to be that way, but hopefully it was obvious that a lot of the people who work on WoW fucking love the game. And they try really hard to make it good, I guess. I don't know why I focus so much on those people. The people with the extreme point of views. Maybe it's because it's like the day of social media where like those things get like, you know, aggregated so much. So you just see so much of it. But like as a streamer, it kind of makes sense to just have the perspective that, you know what, there's going to be a couple of loud, complete idiots at all times. And it is your best to just ignore them. But like I unfortunately find it fascinating to think about the psychology of why they think that way. And what that does, again, unfortunately, is it ends up with me trying to appease them. And I think you could probably just say like those people don't want to be saved, you know? They kind of just want to be that way. Then you can you should probably ignore them, but I just find it so interesting to how someone could turn out that way. Like for example, have you guys, here, I'll go live here, fuck it. But like, have you guys seen this? I was looking on Wowhead here. This, like Maximum and Dratnos interview. Okay, so if you listen to this interview, you could have come across with a lot of things, but I don't think we talked about the race to world first, the game being super difficult. I don't even know if topics even remotely close to that even really came up. But like, look at the comments. You know, I love that they only listened to, this is not the majority of the comments. The majority of the comments were like people who actually listened to it and they were like, great. And then there are people like this that say, I love that they only listened to the 1% of the player base to design a game around an esport that pretty much ruined all the fun in the game. These people play for money, and when the money stops coming in, they quit. They're not playing all the time. Make that shit on a tournament realm and leave the rest of the game balanced. Okay, so what Christ Girl is talking about here. Like, how could you have listened to this interview and come out with this comment? I mean, I'll just skip ahead instead of asking the obvious. They obviously didn't listen to it. They just looked at the title and it said Maximum, and they were like, Race to World First, bad. Race to World First, reason my game bad. Right? Even though usually it's like, they just want the game to be like it used to be, which basically just means they want to feel what it feels like to be a kid again. Isn't it actually kind of sad to think about that, like, you will basically never run into anything for the rest of your life that will ever be as cool as something was when you were a kid? Like, ever. You know, like how people at a certain generation resonated with episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Star Wars, and then they hated 1, 2, and 3, but then the generation of kids that grew up with episode 1, 2, and 3 fucking loved it, because even though it wasn't as good, it just was that cool, like, it got your mind going. It was like, holy shit, this is so interesting, right? Like, but you can't like replicate as an adult what it's like to be a kid. And that happened with a lot of people in WoW. You play WoW for the first time and you have that same experience. And then there's people as adults who think about WoW every single day and how much it's ruined their lives because it's not as good as it used to be, and they're, you know, haven't thought about it deeply enough to realize that they just want to be a kid again because they were happier. Okay, so anyways, so we talked about this whole thing here. And then there's some other ones. Let's see. There was another bad one. I don't know why, again, I focus on this, but I know Patrick also made the mistake. I saw it on Twitter earlier. Patrick made the mistake of looking at the shitty comments. It's something that is so hard to not do. Skarzard plays. That's not the right one. What is his Twitter? Isn't it something like that? Did he change his name? Wait, that is it. Why did it not show up? Huh. Oh, who knows? Riot leaked. I mean, he used to work at Riot. That's why that Twitter handle exists. Would love to have talked to him actually about like the challenges of working on an MMO versus a MOBA and like what he's learned as a game developer doing both. But that's like definitely a deep cut podcast topic and not like a Blizzard interview thing. But here's what he said. Everyone has been very kind about my interview and I'm very appreciative. I do not want to highlight negativity, which he says right before highlighting negativity, but I will say the sheer amount of comments calling me a woke weirdo or using the term DEI because I have visible nail polish is frankly so funny. I don't even really like them. It was just something fun to do with my partner, but nothing says absolute brain rot like a bearded white guy is DEI because you saw some violet in a thumbnail. I mean, fucking facts. But also, this is like prime, you know, when you make videos and you're on, you like, there's just, especially now, because like this culture war nonsense is going on, like anyone who unironically uses the term DEI or woke, you know, like whatever message he read here are just like complete morons. You just have to disregard it entirely. But like just focusing, it's so natural to just focus on only the negative things. Even like 99% of what anyone said about this interview was extremely positive. Best interview I've ever seen you do, all that stuff. But it's so easy to like focus on the absolute idiots. Honestly, I think that's the most insufferable. Maybe there's in the history of, you know, modern day humans, like there's always something that's insufferable. But like, dude, I don't know if I've ever, maybe it's because Twitter feeds it to me so much. Like I get so much of that woke, like DEI type things until by the way, you can mute words on Twitter and it's like a lifesaver, by the way. But I've told you guys this before, but it like shows up on my Twitter feed and it thinks I want to read it because I keep clicking on the post, because when I see someone typing some shit like that, I have to go to the comments to see what people are saying, which is even worse brain rot. But like Twitter's like, okay, so you like this. And it's like, no, well then now if it's all you show me, then I just have such a insanely bad view of the world, you know? I likened it to like going to the zoo. Like when I click on a post of someone unironically being like, this game is DEI nonsense. I'm just like, all right, I have to see what the idiots are up to. Like you're going to an exhibit at the zoo, you know? But like you don't go to the zoo every day. Going to the zoo is fun, but not every day, you know? So I wish there'd be like a zoo setting. Like when I click on these posts, it's purely, do not keep feeding these to me. I like to see them very sparingly. Delete Twitter. It's great. I'm telling you right now, if I didn't need Twitter for my job, I would immediately get rid of Twitter. And what I mean by having Twitter for my job isn't, I don't have to like tweet. Like I could grow my follower count and like I could really try to make good Twitter content. I just don't care. So I usually tweet like probably on average like once or twice a week. The reason why I need to have a Twitter is like, our game. Okay, cool. And we want you to send a tweet about it. And if you have a Twitter, like you can get paid more money because you're reaching more people with your tweet. Or if you have an Instagram or a TikTok or whatever, like. So having a Twitter literally just makes me money. So I can't really get rid of it. But for like the sake of your mental health, you like getting rid of Twitter is just objectively a good thing. Unless you're smart enough to use it right, like barely ever. Or you like really curate it to get like, it's like a really good news source if you can somehow remove all of the like Elon people. But yeah. It's still good for sports. It's great for sports. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad people liked it. There was another one. Oh, this is Tomris, bro. Fucking Tomris is back, and he has a new title, Rare Premium User. So Tomris, if you guys are unaware, famous Wowhead commenter, has the worst takes of all time. TLDR, enjoy our extremely overtuned raid for the 0.001% of elitists once more because majority of players doesn't matter to us. Yes, that's the TLDR. So TLDR means too long didn't read. That means, hey, you guys don't want to listen to this video? Here, I'll tell you what this video is about. So they tried to summarize the video with this, but we didn't talk about literally anything that could even kind of relate to this at all. Like nothing, nothing in the whole 30 minutes could have been. So too long different read means I didn't listen or watch the video, and I'm going to make up what I think it was about. You gotta fucking love that. How it feels to spread misinformation. Yeah, lying goes hard. I like that. What is it? There's a whole team of people on the rewards team, and they are in charge of anything your player can have. Yeah. And yet no one has ever thought that maybe 50 gold after a 30-minute run maybe feels like shit. I mean, actually true. You do get very little gold from end of runs. But that's also not the primary resource you need from it. But let's see. No one has ever thought about giving myth track gear for end of dungeon loot 12 and beyond. Okay, well, hopefully everyone here understands why that can't be a thing, but time gating is fun. Time gating is everything. And also, I feel like they certainly have thought about this very quickly just to be like, of course we can't do that. Still like the fact that Blizz, they cater towards the 0.1%. Dude, is Asmongold? I swear, I don't know if it was him, but like this all came up a couple years ago when there was like one hard raid and then someone just made up that. I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's like, I don't like the game anymore. Why is the game bad? I have to blame someone. Oh, it's these fucking elitists. Of course the game is bad because Blizzard makes the game. What actual like evidence or any kind of credible argument that Blizzard has made the game worse, and it's because they're focusing on what? Like they barely do anything for the race. They just make the game. I mean, I know Asmongold said some shit like this, so I feel like it's coming from that. But I mean, people probably felt that way before that. Why isn't there a tournament realm for the race just like TGP MDI? I mean, I feel like that would have an even worse impact on regular players, but all right. Some say cucumbers taste better pickled. So fucking true. And people wonder why Mythic rating population is dropping to never before seen levels. Dude, okay, if it was just one person, I would get it, but how are there so many people who make a habit of not even watching a video and just making a comment? Like I can understand not watching that. I don't think everyone who clicks on this watches the video, right? Or maybe even reads the summary. But like, it's kind of insane to comment without doing that, right? Like, I feel like if you just read this and then you kind of just go on your way and you're like, fuck the race world first. God fucking damn it. I'm pretty sure that's what that's about. But to like comment is almost like I have consumed this content and here's my opinion on it. But they just haven't consumed the content. They're just like, I have to get something off my chest. Let's see if I can find any more. I don't know. See, do you guys like how I pointed out Skarzard got like trapped into the like focusing on the negative comments thing because he tweeted about it, and then I'm literally doing that. That's all I'm doing. I'm just in the I'm in a Wowhead reply section right now. That is maybe even below like Reddit or YouTube comment level of like toxic idiots. Free yourself from the Vortex King. It's your birthday. All right, yeah, let's get out of here. Well, there's a couple other cool things to look at. So apparently there's another interview with Mr. Morgan Day. And associate encounter designer. Ooh, that should be super interesting. And it's a Raider IO interview, and they always ask really good questions. And someone said there was a Race to World First video. I don't know what that means. Do you mean like our announcement video? I won't be watching that. I remember recording it. I will never. So unfortunately, for you all, I have this small problem where I can't ever watch anything that's been filmed of myself. So I don't mean like streaming or like this interview that I did, but like any kind of like there's a director and a cameraman produced level content. There's multiple documentaries about me on YouTube. You could not pay me. Well, okay, you probably could pay me, but like I would never on my own watch those. I'm terrified. I didn't want those to be made. Who the fuck like makes a documentary about themselves? Like, I would never do that. Right? That makes me want to blow up. I'm sure you'd cringe to infinity watching it. Yeah, if I remember from recording this, is like Atlas was definitely really good as like the Milchick role. But yeah, it was nice. It was nice. It was nice. What is it? In response to that interview with Katrina Yepes Extreme W, everyone has to be nice to her or you're going in the crystal. Oh, shit. I started Severance over the weekend and I just got to season 2 tonight. Yeah, that's a good binge. Severance? I mean, is Severance the best, like, prestige television show on that's currently, like, airing a season right now? I'm pretty sure it is. Maybe White Lotus is as good that just started. But I think Severance is a step ahead of White Lotus. White Lotus is a little procedural. Oh god, this is playing in the background. I wasn't looking at it, but that makes me want to die. Alright, you know what? Fuck it, I'll watch it. I'll watch it. I'll watch it. I fucking hate this. Alright. Where'd you get that jacket? They told me to wear this for the shoot. It's a Team Liquid X, like, I think they did a Wolverine and Deadpool drop, and this is like a Team Liquid X Wolverine jacket. If you ever see it from the back, you can see like the X-Men logo. I guess that's everything. So THD, I went into like TeamSpeak before the stream today, and I said I did my normal greeting to THD, which is I called him an insect, and then he goes, "You're an insect. How many takes did you have to do rubbing my picture, idiot?" That's what he said to me today. There was a take where I kissed the picture. They didn't use it. I guess that's everything.
Where are you going?
Oh, hey, Atlas. Race is done. I was just gonna head home, hang out with the dogs, maybe stream.
Bro, he looks sinister as fuck. He kind of pulls off Milchick, bro.
Of course. Let me show you to the door.
Okay, I could probably find the door myself.
Sure you can.
Bro, the Milchick actor in Severance is a fucking beast.
Well, there it is. Feel free to step right through.
Okay, yeah, I've used a door.
See, that's like, you can see the like Marvel tag, and then it's a pretty cool jacket. Max, why do you not wear glasses when you're filming, even though you're 10 times more recognizable with glasses? For 2 reasons. Number 1, I don't care about being more recognizable. Second reason is you have to get a polarizer for your camera, which is kind of annoying, so the glasses don't show reflections. And I don't know, I was told to like take them off one time, so I just never brought them back.
See you next race, man.
Yeah. See you soon.
Dude, my eyes are looking blue as fuck in this. Aren't they?
See you
They're looking fucking insanely blue.
next race, man.
Yeah. See you soon. What the Oh, great. You're back. Let's get to work.
So I guess like the first time I remember when we were shooting this, the idea for the shoot was every time I would come back through the door, there would be more things in preparation. Like, I mean, obviously you guys get the bit, right? Hopefully, I mean, your media literacy is probably high enough to where I don't have to explain this to you. But someone tweeted me earlier and you said they fucked up in the video and they forgot the box. But the whole idea of Severance is you have like an innie and an outie, right? So like you're watching this from the perspective of my innie. So if I leave with the box, right? I would have spent the whole bit is like the race just ended and the next race is like 5 or 6 months from now, right? So I obviously wouldn't come back with the box, but apparently I did wear the same jacket. But you could have changed clothes, right? I guess because you don't have like a uniform like you would in Severance, but you wouldn't come back with the box because why would you have been holding that box for 5 months? Is the idea. But you guys have enough media literacy to understand this. Actually, if you wouldn't have seen the show, this would have made no sense to you, but
What the Oh, great. You're back. Let's get to work.
What do you mean I just left? Why am I still here?
Alice is such a handsome man.
Come on, man. We've got everything you need right here.
No, race is over. I'm leaving.
Don't you get it, Max? You can't leave. There we go, buddy. Come on. Let's get you set up. Let's get you in your PC. Let's lock in. We got a lot of work to do. By the way,
Okay, so it's a pretty fucking good video. That turned out pretty good. But could you imagine how much of a fucking nightmare it would be to be an innie during the Race to World First? Think about it. You just go through 2 weeks of like mental torture. I've told you guys this before, but like you're so stressed / excited / working at like probably your cognitive load, like what you are capable of doing for like 2 straight weeks. And then when it's over, you usually need to sleep for like 15 to 16 hours for at least a couple of nights to even feel like a normal human again. Like your brain is fucked. So could you imagine if you were an innie for the Race to World First, meaning that your life was literally Race to World First into Race to World First with no breaks? Your body would like, you'd probably die in a year of doing that. Like stress takes years off your life. Like I don't think you could do that over and over again. Like you would just, I don't know, you just die. This video is probably insanely confusing to 80% of the people that watch it. True, Severance is a really good show, but Apple TV Plus is a very like niche streaming service to use. Even though, I'm just telling you this right now, if you have like high enough media literacy to where you really like prestige television shows, you know, like the opposite of Netflix, which like kind of explains everything to you. All their movies do that. It's very basic. There's nothing wrong with basic television, by the way. Love a shitty, like, you know, any kind of shitty TV to like fall asleep to or whatever. But like if you really like prestige TV stuff, I mean, Apple TV is the streaming service to have. It's like the new HBO. They're I mean, especially if you were to get like a 1 month, no free ads. I mean, they're not paying me anything to say this, but like there's like at least like 6 to 8 shows that are fucking insane. Okay, anyways, this would be hell for me. Even though the idea of just your whole life is only doing Race to World First sounds fun, but it's too much on your brain. It would. Okay, some guy actually has a pretty nice rebuttal in YouTube chat to what I just said, and he said, actually not true, Apple TV bad. I don't know how to come back from that. Have you seen Twitter's new streaming service called X Videos? Nope, but here, you know what? I should Google that real quick. I should just Google X videos and see about Twitter's new streaming service. That sounds like a good idea. All right, let's watch this interview, I think. This date leaves me questioning if you meant 3rd of April or 4th of March. Guys, I know Europeans, this hurts you internally, but like the month, then the day, then the year goes so hard. Month, then day, then year is goated. Day before month is some absolute clown shit. No, it's not Europeans. It's literally everyone except the U.S. I know that. I just usually point out Europeans for things like the metric system and stuff like that, just because you guys are the only ones who endlessly and insufferably complain about it. All right, interview time. Rightfully so, I might add. I don't want any of this. I want the video. I'll just go on. Oh, is it text? Text would make me blow up. Okay, we'll just go to their website. It's not out till tomorrow. It's a preview. Like, what are we doing here? Okay, let's get a little... Okay. Make sure to tune into Raider.io tomorrow for their full interview and follow them on Blue Sky. I won't be doing that. Twitter's an absolute hellhole, and any website like Blue Sky has a lot of promise because it's probably less of a hellhole. But someone on Blue Sky took my name, so I have no choice but to hate on it for the rest of my life. Non-group buffs and exploits in Season 1. This has been a very unconventional season with non-group buffs. Which is likely why this question was asked by Raider.io. Many players debated whether or not these buffs, as seemingly nothing has been done with them all season. What the fuck is this even talking about? And many of them seemed like exploits might be ban-worthy, especially since Blizzard banned for the Zenkiki buff exploit in the past season. Man, I have never been more confused. What the fuck is this talking about? Many players have asked for a long time why all buffs aren't just cleared at the beginning of the dungeon and just making them rebuff them before the timer starts. Okay. Yeah, I mean, is this like... I saw Elizmir tweeted some shit, right? Like, he was like, this is a crazy... Here, I can even pull up the tweet. Why did I click Elizmir instead of his name? It's crazy that we're ending Season 1 with the Mythic Plus leaderboards full of exploiters. So I'm assuming that's what this means, right? Like, that's exploiting? This is the exploit thing? Or is this something else? Oh. Okay. A ton of the top Raider.io scores are exploits. W. Alright, follower dungeons. Okay, story mode, don't care. Don't care. Holiday buffs. Yeah. Legion unicorns. Dream Surge. Okay. Non-bench viewer spotted. Yeah, I don't do that. The follower dungeon and story mode parts explain the exploit. Yeah, I don't really care, to be honest with you. But if people are exploiting, fucking kill them in-game. You know? And if they're not, or don't do that. Okay, so there's not another interview to look at. That's sad. Happy birthday, Max. Thank you. I turned 29 today. There's a Morgan Day one. That's the one that isn't there. Unless there's a new... Wait, countdown to classic interview with Morgan Day. Oh, I thought this was a classic interview. But it's a channel called Countdown the Classic that did an interview with Morgan Day about retail? Am I reading that right? That's such a bait. I don't like that one bit. Morgan Day gives great answers. Let's see what he says. It's 30 minutes. What is this? Oh, they just streamed the... Is he have no shirt on? Or is that just like a skin-colored shirt? Bro, the idea that someone would interview Morgan Day and just do it shirtless goes fucking insane. I hope he did that.
All right, it's time for another Countdown to Classic interview with the devs.
Turn this shit up.
A very
Turn this shit up.
different kind of interview for the show, considering our classic content. We're talking retail today, and we're here with one of the big kahunas.
Man, being a classic content creator and releasing a YouTube video about retail, I can only imagine what the comment section looks like. It has to be just an absolute war zone.
From retail, Morgan Day. Morgan, mate, how are you?
Hey, how's it going? Nice to
I'm
meet you,
good.
Josh.
It's nice to meet you too. Real quick for all my, classic fans out there. Well, Morgan, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Happy birthday,
called
thanks,
you one
dude.
Of the big kahunas.
Turned
Why
28
don't you
today.
talk yourself up? Who are you? What do you do on retail?
Hey, my name is Morgan Day. I am one of the associate game directors on World of Warcraft, primarily taking point on the War Within and other odds expansions. But I've been at Blizzard. I want to say this year is my 20th anniversary at Blizzard. So
Oh my god. He doesn't look that old. He can't be 50, can he? He's got to be 45 at the most, absolute most. So that means he got this job basically like right out of college and then just slammed it. Or he started at 5.
been playing World of Warcraft basically since like Alpha 1.
Max, this is the guy that did the Wowhead stealing content bit. Wait! Is it? Dude! Please let that be true. Are you sure? Oh my god, can we pull up that tweet again, bro? That shit is so funny. That shit is so funny. How do I find his... let's see. Countdown. Oh, hopefully he didn't block me because I totally made fun of him with a tweet. Countdown to classic. How do you find it? This is it, right? Josh Corbett Pods. WoW podcast guy. I'm pretty sure this is him, right? It looks like him. Dude, I mean, I'd have to scroll so far back to see the actual thing. Maybe not. I mean, it couldn't have been that much later than like a year ago. I mean, we're in November right now. Fuck. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it. Basically, this guy did an interview at some point, and then Wowhead just simply tweeted about it. Like they do with anything like that. And the wording on the tweet basically said, like, I wish Wowhead wouldn't just steal my content. But that's not exactly what he said. It was like extremely aggressive. It was like these fucking leeches or some shit like that. Oh, it was so good. Links don't work, by the way. You'd have to have like a mod DM me or something, but I'm going to keep scrolling. I might be able to find it. Damn, he fucking tweets a lot. God damn it. Go to Wowhead Twitter. It's from August 1st, 2024. Okay, we're not even that far from that. We'll just keep on scrolling, baby. Come on, baby. All right, we're within the month now. Oh, I saw a dog. Hello. Hello, dog. This is it, bro. This is it. Wowhead This is okay. Listen to how dramatic this is. Wowhead is a leeching website run by absolute scumbags without a creative bone in their bodies. This will get some hate, but only by fuckwits. But this is not a shout out or a spotlight for a creator. They've just written a 1,564 word article basically transcribing my interview. Again, and I'm not a huge Wowhead fan. I think Wowhead definitely does some less than stellar shit sometimes. Like the article they made about Jeff Hamilton, how they like kind of make their titles like a little rage baity instead of like the reality of the situation because they know their audience. I think there's a little bit of that, but I mean, other than that, they just kind of report the news. That's their job. There's news, they report it. They're a news source, right? Like this was just such an insane thing to write. The best part is I basically did an interview like later this week and I quoted this tweet word for word and the replies were amazing because half of them got the bit and the other half thought I was being serious and they were very upset. Okay. Anyways, back to the interview.
And I want to say the level cap was like 4 when I started playing, and then working on it kind of ever since launch.
Very good, very good. Well, I'm very excited to have you here. I'll throw in a quick joke that you don't need to comment on, but again, for my classic listeners, if you don't know, I mean, I've heard for years about Morgan, like, oh, this is the month. I think Morgan's going to become the director soon. I think movements are afoot. It's going to be Morgan. It's going to be Morgan. And nothing ever happens. It's always status quo. But I've heard that stuff for years and years and years. But anyway,
What? What is he talking about? Like Ian, he's going to be he's an associate game director. Does he mean like, oh, promoted to associate? I see.
And the reason I say that is just to iterate the fact that Morgan is definitely one of the people you want to be talking to about retail. So guys, look, let's get into it. Morgan, mate, healing. Let's talk about healing just for a little bit going into 11.1.
Timestamps. Oh, there is timestamps.
I'm sure it's not news to you that the healers out there have had a bit to say about the War Within so far. But it's one of those things where I play healer and I was originally one of the skeptics. Well, not skeptics, but I was like, yeah, healing's too hard. This is bullshit, blah, blah, blah. Then I just kind of took people's advice and got better, or get good, as they say. And it did ease a bit of that pressure and I learnt the role and figured it out. However, I would still say that I think some of the healers' complaints are just...
Before we go any further, I think Morgan's very confused. But yeah, dude, someone in chat has such a good point. What a way to open an interview. Tell the guy that he's surprised he still hasn't gotten his well-deserved promotion at work. I'm pretty sure what he was referring to is like, he's the associate director of World of Warcraft. And for a while, that wasn't his role, so he got promoted to that. But there is an angle where he actually might have been talking about becoming the new director. And then he's like, we thought you were going to be the director. All right, let's start the interview. That would be just crazy.
In the pressure that role carries in modern World of Warcraft. Are you personally happy with where the healing role is at? Like maybe particularly in Mythic Plus, moving into 11.1?
With all things, class balance is definitely one of those things that is an art and is constantly evolving, changing. Also, I think, you mentioned Mythic Plus. There's a lot of different elements of healing, from raids and different raid difficulties, right? From normal to heroic to mythic. And then even within Mythic Plus, when you ask, well, what key are you actually healing? Because that has huge implications as well. I will say, like, very high level, philosophically, we've heard a lot of feedback about health bars essentially rubber banding, right? And that's very much something that I have felt change over time. We make changes, even going into the War Within, we've made major changes to like player health and creature damage to try to address some of these things. But ultimately, the way I've phrased this to the team at times is it feels like I'm playing a DPS spec where you have like a rotation as a healer. But if I mess up my rotation, someone dies.
Yeah.
Like it is really can feel quite stressful at times, depending on the difficulty of the content you're pushing. So yeah, I mean, that's absolutely something that the team has heard feedback on. And ultimately, philosophically, we want to move in a direction where it doesn't feel like like I just said, like that DPS rotation, but as a healer. But those are types of changes that will take, you know, it's something that we're going to move in that direction over time. Swinging the pendulum too quickly could really, you know, be a bit, could cause a bit of whiplash for our player base. So it's something that with, you know, an end goal in sight, we're going to make changes to constantly make progress in that direction. You know, things like raid cooldowns being required at very specific times and all the healers feeling like they have so many raid cooldowns. I've actually been healing quite a bit during season 1 and have felt that kind of gluttony of like, I have so many raid cooldowns. What do I do with all these?
Well, that's what I was kind of getting at. And obviously, you know, I appreciate that you can't really answer, and I don't want to tie you down to an answer that you give now for the next expansion. But in sort of picking up in the subtleties in that answer, could it ever be the case that in the next expansion, is healing too big, or is the role too defined, or is it just too hard to sort of announce, hey, in WoW's next expansion, we've completely redesigned healing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, they also don't need to do that. Like, the way WoW healing works is great. It's just about like fine tuning it. I think the issue is that healing used to feel better than it does now. Not in terms of like class design really, or like the amount of buttons you have or anything like that. Just like there's a very similar amount of buttons in Shadowlands, but healing made way more sense. Each like individual heal did more because there was less interactions, and that felt good. You would never need to completely redesign healing. And healing was great for a really long time. And it's not saying healing is really bad. Like, healing is fine now. It's just like they've taken kind of a new look at it, and people want it to go back. I think the thing that people don't like the most is like the reliance on cooldowns carrying you through everything, and your individual heals. And there's like different ones for each healer, but like those are just way less impactful. Each individual button press might be less impactful, and it's all about combos and like cooldowns. And I think the general vibe I get from healers is like we preferred less cooldown reliance and more like you could get by in most situations by just pressing your buttons right. I think.
Yeah. It's funny. I've joked, please don't take this as we're going to do this in WoW, but I play a ton of different MMOs. And a lot of different MMOs really struggle with the Trinity, right? Tank, heal, DPS.
Yeah.
And I've seen other MMOs try different things. You know, I've seen some MMOs like, oh, there's no tank class. Like, everyone just DPSs, and that ends up with interesting behavior. But I've played a couple MMOs where there's just no healer, right? You're just responsible for your own health bar, and those are actually really fun. Not to say that that's something we will or could or should do in World of Warcraft.
This is a really
it's just
interesting answer.
A fun, like, kind of philosophical conversation and example to look at. I will say, though, you know, one of the major goals actually in Dragonflight, you know, we added augmentation. And that was something I felt really strongly about, was adding a role that was for a segment of the player base that really just loves to kind of like support their friends, right? Like they know they're not the best player in the world. They're not gonna, you know, have orange parses, but they just want to help people out. And in WoW, previous to the addition of augmentation, healing was frankly the only ground to go to, right? If you're that player who wants to support people, well, I'm going to heal. And as you've mentioned, in some cases, depending on the difficulty or the content you're playing, it can at times be fairly stressful.
Yeah.
So having an option that could fill that role,
He called
of
Augs
feeling like
bad?
you're supporting.
This isn't a new thing. Like, I think when Augs were initially introduced, their whole rhetoric around that was like, there are not saying like all support players are bad, but there are absolutely players who like were to play, let's say like a MOBA, and they know that like there's a role that just has a little bit less involved than the other ones. And there are people who gravitate towards that because they don't actually aspire to be amazing at games, but they still want to be involved and play with their friends, and that's a perfect role for them. And there's a ton of gamers like that, so like adding that kind of role into any game is great if you can obviously assimilate it correctly and not have it completely change the Mythic Plus meta for 2 years. Like, it hasn't been a great introduction, but the idea from a game designer to implement that in the game is not stupid at all. Especially for newer players or players who are not as good, which is a ton of people.
In your team.
And more importantly, that aren't really that good, and they don't care about being good. I think that's like maybe the biggest misconception with most like Twitch viewers, especially, because I think if you watch a lot of Twitch and WoW, I think there's like a higher chance that you want to be good at the game. But like, there's so many people that love playing the game that play it at an average level and do not have a desire to be great at it or get any better, or it's not their main focus. And I think for people, a lot of the times who do find their main focus is getting better at the game, I'm one of those people. I think it's often hard to look at the game from another person's perspective and think that people would play the game for any other reason.
But not responsible for the health bars of
But
your
still
team.
want to do the content and have fun and be less of a burden, right? When you're raiding with a group of people and there's like one person in your guild who's dying a lot of people are like, oh man, it sucks to play with this person because we have to wait for them to figure the fight out. But it really sucks to be that person too, because you are not stupid and you probably realize you're holding other people back and you don't want to be that person, right? So having like an easier role for those people to still be able to play with their friends is like relevant in many games, and I think it is in WoW too. I'm not saying they've made AUG perfectly or they've gotten into the game right, but I think they're like, as a game designer, I could totally see how that got greenlit.
In such a direct manner was one of the main goals of adding augmentation, and that has been kind of fun to look at and reflect on.
Okay. I wish I had a sip of coffee in my mouth when we talked about the notion of deleting healers so I could do the spit take. But, you know, all a bit of fun. I get where you're coming from. It's a good start. We're off to deleting healers and Org Evokers catching strays. So it's a good start.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Exactly.
Exactly.
Mates, just real quick, I just very, very quickly before I move on to the next topic, you mentioned just the rubber banding. Look, you guys play the game. It's too, you know, you mentioned you've been healing a bunch this season. As devs, with the rubber banding, you see the commentary on the forum.
What does rubber banding mean in this context? Maybe I missed that in his explanation. Does that mean health bars yo-yoing?
And subreddit and whatnot. Look, honestly, does it give you... Sorry to be crass for a second. Does it kind of give you guys the shits too?
I wouldn't use that language. Ultimately, as someone who has been playing and working on World of Warcraft for so long, we fully understand and
fucking
recognize
weird,
just
man.
kind of like the passion and excitement
hype,
that our
though.
community has for the game, right? This is something that, is near and dear to them. This is people's escape.
It's a non-answer.
This is where you can...
They know that
Not
I
his
get
fault.
a bit
He just didn't get asked anything that he would have answered.
fidgety when I get the canned answers.
Reviewing
but that's
Mythic
okay,
Plus
Morgan.
Season
We're just
1.
getting to know each other, mates. Let me ask, Season 1 Mythic Plus, did it meet your personal expectations?
Why does he keep phrasing it like that? Why does he keep ending his questions with, how do you personally feel about this? I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense in an interview, but like how he personally feels about something is probably what they ended up doing because he's the associate game director, right? They would have... He said he's very abrasive. Yeah, it shouldn't be a surprise he's abrasive, bro. Wowhead just tweeted to the news, and then he called anyone that disagreed with him fuckwits, and he called Wowhead a leeching website run by absolute scumbags.
It depends.
That's
on
like, you
which
have to have a
part
certain level of hate in your heart to be able to
we're talking
do
about.
that.
I can break down the different pieces of that, I guess. So we made a pretty big swing with the...
But I mean, there's so many things wrong with this too. Like, just, I know we already went over this tweet, but you know how crazy this tweet is? Bro, if you're a content creator and you're lucky enough to get a Blizzard interview, that interview doesn't belong to you. That's not something that you, like, it's yours. Like, you got this present under the Christmas tree, and Wowhead's ruining it. You were picked as, like, a person that could relate to your audience, and they're targeting your audience, and they want to answer questions from your audience for everyone in WoW. They're not... This isn't private content to you. It's public content, and you're just a catalyst to give that or receive that information through. This thing doesn't belong to you, right? So you can't, conduit. You can't just be like, these people can and can't react to my video, and no one can type this thing. It's not your... Blizzard didn't give you this so you could make some income on a YouTube video. They did it to spread information to the community. Anyone not getting that is like, I don't know how you couldn't get that unless you were just like I don't know.
Within Season 1, where we really tried to kind of condense the number of keystone levels, as well as create kind of this idea of like there's the Mythic Plus keys up to a certain power level, like Keystone Hero, where there's all these awesome affixes, but then we recognize that there's an audience in World of Warcraft who really like to push high-level keys, who don't want to, have so much variance week over week. That kind of can help... Can kind of...
This is learning nothing. He's basically just talking about why they made the changes in Season 1 that they did, but they answered that in interviews before Season 1. They probably have follow-up questions here. I wonder if we can find a follow-up question. So Morgan talks with his hands a lot. So it's possible when he's not swinging his mitts around that maybe that's when this other guy's asking a question again. Let's see if we can figure that out.
Dictate. We really should come up with a better name for that. Cohen and Mythic. This team, great scale, and maybe so then lives are actually.
Here we go.
I appreciate that was a great setup to these questions, so thank you for answering that. But to sort of point you more in the direction of where I was going there, real quick, in light of the fact that you're always looking to improve, what would you give season 1 out of 10? You played it.
What would I give it out of 10? What's my scale? Right? Like, have we had a 10?
The usual one. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I just started playing retail when The War Within came out, so I've got nothing to compare it to.
Dude. This is insane. Like, what are you trying to get out of this answer? Are you trying to... Like, what it seems like is he's just trying to get it. What are your personal opinion? Oh, you personally think this patch was good? Okay, what would you rate it out of 10? Oh, you think it's a 10? Like, this is brutal.
If you don't want to answer, you don't have to answer.
Then why'd you ask him?
Nah, I mean, I would say that there's always room for improvement, but I was really happy with, I'm not sure if you followed a lot of the feedback going into the War Within, but there was a lot of feedback and let's just call it consternation. Also, hi to all the people who are now playing Modern along with you. I fully invite the community.
I keep forgetting that Blizzard internally calls retail Modern and not retail.
We are a
There's
crowd.
lots of fun stuff
We
always
exist.
going on.
My listeners are shocked that I'm still playing retail, and I'm like, why? It's a good MMO. The War Within for me changed things.
Oh, Dorky in chat says, how's this guy get an interview but I don't? Oh, well, mostly because you're a cat. I think. Like, I don't know why, but I think they want a face to a name during interviews. But also, that doesn't even really make sense. Maybe I'm just making that up.
You can play both. Also,
Yes,
it's always fun to experience what.
Yeah, actually, I don't even think what I just said makes sense. He said his face is 120p. Yeah, also, what the fuck is this? They just... I mean, I can kind of see the making your camera really small because the point of emphasis should be the person you're interviewing, but then also the way he's asking the questions is very like, this interview is about me.
Today.
So I'm like super confused.
Back on the hot seat, you were saying about your grade?
I feel like given, the feedback that we got going into the War Within, there was a lot of major changes that happened super late with things like the Xalatath affixes coming in. And those are...
Yeah, if Dorky did that, it'd be crazy. So, Morgan, what would you rate this patch out of 10 in personally? It doesn't. I mean, it sounds just as stupid.
Really successful in hindsight, right? Like that was something that we
actually, if you could rate it out of booms, so 1 to 5 booms.
We're trying a lot of different things.
Boom.
Let's just call it limited success leading up to the launch, and the team I think really knocked it out of the park coming into launch. So with that in mind, and also all the things that I just mentioned, where there was a couple misses with the early progression and a couple misses on the reward side, I would say like a 7.5, 8.
Okay,
I feel like is
fair
probably
enough.
good.
Well, on that note, here's the next follow-up question that'll again further push your PR training because you're doing so well, Morgan. Look, I think you've just alluded to it and taken a bit of the pressure off of me in how to softly word this question or word it politely. Like I said, I'm a first-time retail player. This is my first Mythic Plus season. I'm on the record multiple times to my listeners saying, I've never engaged with Mythic Plus before, and this is the greatest thing to ever happen to MMOs. I love it. I can't stop running them. I think it's so amazing.
Yeah, Mythic Plus is
Kudos to you guys. But that's the only experience I've ever had, right? There's obviously a lot of veterans that have been running it for years, blah, blah, blah. Now look, let me balance this. There's a lot of positive talk out there about Season 1, but I read a lot of the subreddit and the forums, and there has been a notable amount of commentary about, look, if you've played Mythic Plus for some time, this season was euphemistically a letdown, right? Now,
Right, like he's gonna agree with that. Yeah, I mean that is true. I remember having this conversation with Mighty Teapot, and for the life of me, I can't remember what season it was, but it was really controversial. Okay, it was season 2 in Dragonflight after the patch to where God Comp was the only thing that anyone played. So like Guardian Druid, Holy Paladin, and I think it was like Mage, Shadow Priest, Og, making that up, but something like that. And like if you talk to anyone about Mythic Plus during that, it was so anti-Og, it was so like the Mythic Plus fucking sucks. And then I interviewed Mighty Teapot, and I was like, you know, like, how do you feel about Mythic Plus? And he just started doing it, and he was like, oh, it's the best thing ever. Raid's the best thing ever. Like, this game's so fucking fun. Right? So, like, him saying the perspective of someone doing Mythic Plus for the first time versus someone who's done it for a long time will always get a very different answer because you're comparing it to previous seasons versus just the overall experience as a whole. Like, for example, you could take the worst season of Mythic Plus, and if someone did it for the first time, they might think it's awesome. And, I mean, historically, when I've talked to people, they do. Right? The first time you do Mythic Plus, it's like, oh, this is sick. I can keep doing this all day.
what I'm going to throw to you is, though,
Season 2 is fine in Dragonflight. I think that is a, like, revisionist opinion. Because, like, if you were to say, like, just for an example, if you were to say, like, Mythic Plus is in a good spot right now in Twitch chat in Season 2, you would just be the dumbest person on Earth. Like, all the Mythic Plus mains in chat would just be like, bro, you can't play anything but 5 classes. You're so fucking stupid. This is bad. This is bad. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And then, like, later on, people... I mean, that's, like, kind of the... That's kind of the lifespan for any Mythic Plus season. Like, every Mythic Plus season is people hate the dungeon set going into the actual patch. And they're like, this is the worst dungeon set ever. And then the dungeon set always ends up being, like, pretty good or okay. There's, like, some good dungeons and some bad ones every season. And then it ends up being like they do some dungeon changes, and by the end of the season, Mythic Pluses are like, well, this season was actually pretty good. And then it does that whole cycle again next season.
do you feel as a dev when you read that kind of commentary that it's just old hat? Because it seems to, there's always someone complaining every season about something, you know, oh, it's just the same old, same old. Or was there something about War Within Season 1 that actually had you maybe reading a bit deeper into
mean, when people complain, like, generally speaking, there's, like, a reason, right? Like can some complaining be chalked up to just, like, you know, unhappy people saying unhappy things, you know? Like, someone's played Mythic Plus for 8 years, and they're just, like, it's not as fun as it used to be because they're a little older. And maybe it's just, like, misplaced criticism, you know? Like, there's some of that, but I mean, like, if, I don't know, I feel like when Mythic Plus or anything is really good, people are like, this is really good. And I think even in this extremely negative social media space, like, there's still a world where something could be really good and people would just say it's really good. And those voices would get drowned out. I don't think it's, I think chalking up all criticism to people being doomers is wrong. Like, doomers are always there, but like that's kind of a cheap way out, you know?
feedback?
What the fuck did he even ask him? What is the question?
Seems to, there's always someone complaining every season about something, you know, oh, it's just the same old, same old. Or was there something about War Within Season 1 that actually had you maybe reading a bit deeper into that feedback?
Yeah, it's fun.
So he's like, people were saying Season 1 was bad, but maybe they were just old heads. Do you think Season 1 is bad?
Funny.
That's the
There's
question.
Another kind of popular podcast that
Which one?
put out an episode recently that was like at the start of the War Within, they came out with a podcast that says Blizzard saves Mythic Plus, and then just a couple weeks ago it was
That's
Blizzard
the potty
saves Mythic
C.
Plus in parentheses again, and I got a giggle out of that.
That's us. Let's
but-
go. He's kind of making fun of the fact that we talked about the same thing twice. But W, shout out.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, a lot of that feedback and sentiment is something that we always have to listen to, right? We can't just say, hey, you know, we know better.
Yeah.
I
WoW
think-
players
I
being
think
WoW
that-
players, right?
Well, it's really
No, I mean, as a dev, you definitely don't want to. So one thing, Morgan, this is probably something they go over in PR training, but I'm just kind of using my head right now. I imagine the last thing that he would ever want to say is, yeah, we do acknowledge that when a lot of people are mad, they're just like unhappy people that are just saying unhappy things. That sounds like such a cop out, you know? That is definitely true, but he can't say that, you know? It's also true that that's not all criticism, but that in WoW, like, dude, we only have a few really popular games that have been out for 20 years, and there's one consistent thing, which is like an older player base that is extremely jaded and mad at everything they do, right? I don't think that's a coincidence. That is real. But anytime your game can be better, saying that anytime someone's complaining it's because they're mad and jaded is like a terrible way to solve problems and make a better game, right?
Like, I talk about this a lot, like going back to Shadowlands. The team really did have a pretty big philosophical shift about, you know, essentially really wanting to meet players where they are.
It's so true. Feel like they're going to use this video in PR trainings going forward. You're exactly right. I feel like multiple times he was like almost baiting him into saying
feedback and make changes that maybe, you know, I've said I've been on this team a long time. I've seen kind of the way the World of Warcraft team has changed, the leadership team has changed, the way that we approach developing World of Warcraft has changed over time. And, you know, you kind of come up in the studio on the team kind of being essentially taught certain philosophies, and it's really hard to take that huge step back and be like, all right, it reminds me of the you know, that Simpson meme, like, am I out of touch or the kids
Or is
out
it
of
the
touch?
children?
Nah, it
Yeah,
must
exactly.
It must be the
Yeah,
children.
it must be the
right?
children,
There's
yeah.
there's a lot of reflecting that happens, and in Shadowlands there was a huge kind of philosophical shift that we've been really trying to lean into ever since. And the way I phrase it is just kind of meet players where they are, and if there's feedback about things that they're not enjoying, then there's something to that, right? And it's our job to understand the core of that and really get down and drive into what's causing that feedback. You know, you hear things like Mythic Plus isn't fun, and as a developer you're like, all right, well, that could literally mean anything.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean? And it's part of the job.
Was the phrasing of the questions really do feel like a gotcha? Yeah, it feels like someone got into this guy's ear, like the wrong person. Like every time I'm making questions for an interview, someone will come into my chat, or a few people, and they're 100% serious, and they're like, why don't you ask them why their game's fucking bad? And they're not kidding. They're like, that's what the content they want. They want someone like airing out their grievances to the developer's face, you know, which is like something a well-adjusted adult would just never do, right? But like maybe like some of those chatters were in here, you're like, bro, this is exactly what those chatters want. And then someone else said, this guy's never getting an interview again. Bro, he did this already, and then he tweeted this after it. So saying he won't get an interview again next time is kind of insane, because he just like, you know, he just did.
Is to get to the core of it, to try to understand where that's coming from, and then how we can make improvements on it moving forward. And that's ultimately, you know, what our focus has been. And with something like Mythic Plus, like you even said yourself.
Yo, is Kingdom, guys, please, this is so random, and we are going to get back to the video, but is Kingdoms Come Deliverance 2 like good, fun gameplay if you don't care about the story? And please spare me the culture war nonsense. Like, please spare me. I don't want to hear anything like that, but like, it's not for you. Absolutely not for you. You'd hate the game. The combat is not good. Play Monster Hunter Wilds. Yeah, I tried to get into it before. So I'm getting a, you wouldn't really like it. Dude, I don't think anything could ever make me respect someone less than me hearing a take about a game and they're like, yeah, it has DEI in it. Or like, which basically just means like not a white male protagonist. Like that is a fucking brutal look.
I'm curious.
Okay.
To ask you a question, which
keep
you can
it
get to in a
moving.
minute, but when did you first start playing WoW? Because you've mentioned retail.
I started in 06.
You gotta get.
Yeah, so I'm your classic. I'm probably, I don't know, the marketer's wet dream, if you will, for why Classic was brought about in a way. In that,
wait, sorry, where did marketer's wet dream come from?
So I'm your classic. I'm probably, I don't know, the marketer's wet dream, if you will, for why Classic was brought about in a way. In that, I played from 06 to.
I'm a marketer's wet dream was his phrase. I still need to. I'm backing it up a little more.
Try to understand where that's coming from, and then how we can make improvements on it moving forward. And that's ultimately, what our focus has been, and with something like Mythic Plus, like you even said yourself. And I'm curious to ask you a question, which you can get to in a minute. But when did you first start playing WoW? Because you've mentioned retail.
I started in 06.
You gotta get.
I mean, it totally. By the way, if you wonder why Blizzard is giving this guy an interview, not to. Thanks for the poll, by the way. Getting a large no for Kingdom's delivery to whatever. Okay, cool. Like if they do a bunch of interviews with the same type of people, it's reaching the same audience. What is this guy? This guy runs a classic channel and he has tried retail. So his audience might be classic people trying retail, or maybe just classic people, and they don't get to reach those people with retail interviews very often. So it totally makes sense that they would do this. Just a different kind of yeah, he is very abrasive. I think it might just be a British thing or Australia. Where's he from? I can't tell his accent. Wait.
Yeah, so I'm your classic.
It's OCE. It's not a British accent. Is it just like an OCE thing? I think it is. Like I know in general they're a little bit more abrasive with their language. So I think it's probably that. Okay, I need to hear the marketer's wet dream thing.
To ask you a question, which you can get to in a minute, but when did you first start playing WoW? Because you've mentioned retail.
I started in 06.
You gotta get.
Yeah, so I'm your classic. I'm probably, I don't know, the marketer's wet dream, if you will, for why Classic was brought about in a way.
Oh, actually, I mean, he's exactly right. So the way he's phrasing it is very weird, but like people who played WoW in 04 to 06 and then it doesn't matter how long they played after that, but then they stopped. The reason they brought back Classic was to get those people on the sub again, but also get them back into retail, right? So he is someone who came back, did play in 04 and 06, came back because of Classic, and now is trying retail. So he's exactly right. And he is his estimation of what a Blizzard marketer was trying to do, that's exactly why they did all this thing. He is right.
That I played from 06 to 2010, 2011, dipped out at the start of Kata, which seems to be a relatively common theme that you hear, and then returned for Classic. And then, having played Classic all these years, wasn't grabbed by Shadowlands, Battle for Azeroth, or I did enjoy Dragonflight, but just barely played it. But something...
Wait, someone said OCE folks are no more abrasive than Americans. You might be right. So here's what I'm basing that off of. I'm like roughly familiar with like NA top guilds and OCE top guilds and how they interact. And I know the average guild environment of like the OCE top guild is significantly more abrasive than the North American one. And I'm kind of conflating that to like the entire culture, which is probably not fair. Like comparing the degenerate gamers from NA versus the degenerate gamers from OCE. So I could totally be wrong about that. But like I can say on like the WoW guild side, it's definitely like yeah, like a little bit more abrasive is a word.
Really felt different about War Within and hooked me in.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I'm really happy, and maybe some of those philosophy shifts we're talking about is what led to that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's the job, right? It's to try to keep things fresh, try to keep things novel, listen to player feedback, and meet them where they are, and often try to find.
It's like how NA views EU as being dicks when they are just being direct, since NA loves passive aggressiveness. That's a lot of what you said is true. Like EU guilds are more direct than NA, and an NA viewer could listen to that and think it's toxic. But also sometimes it is toxic. Like I would say, and I've had multiple like European, like a European guild is more likely to be toxic than an American guild. But sometimes you have less problems because even though it can be toxic and even though it can make people feel bad in the moment, directly addressing things can sometimes be a benefit to your guild's atmosphere, because if things aren't addressed, people will talk about it after raid. Humans are humans. They're gonna talk about the thing. If this guy's dying all night, if it's not talked about in front of the whole guild, people are going to talk about it amongst themselves afterwards. If it's talked in front of the whole guild, then people aren't going to do that afterwards. And it's like, what's worse? Having the thing said to your face, or like knowing that everyone is saying it behind your back, right? I think that's a huge difference between like the way NA guilds and EU guilds operate. The question is, which one's more toxic? One is more openly toxic, but I would argue talking behind people's backs and having more of those conversations in whispers or behind closed doors is just as toxic. It's just not as apparent.
Solutions that might be creative and find ways to achieve our goals while also, kind of making the community happy.
Okay. Mate, Delves, the 6-month review, real quick. Look, this is an interesting one because I was very excited to hear
I love calling your question interesting before you ask it.
about the concept of Delves, and I think they're great. I think they're wonderful.
Really? Really? Like, I still always do this little preemptive thing anytime I talk about Delves where I'm like, disregard my opinion because they're probably not made for me. But I haven't even heard from people that I think they're designed for. There's not this like large outcry of people that are like, you know what, Delves actually are awesome. And if there's any like benefit of the doubt I could give them is every other thing they've created in this game that ended up being amazing took like an entire expansion of iteration before it was great. So like maybe we should just give Delves an expansion to see what they're like near the end of this one or the beginning of the next one, to be fair. But I mean, seeing Delves for what they are and how relevant they are for gearing characters, and just not saying they're okay or terrible, but just saying they're great. Like, I love Delves. That's crazy to me. I genuinely don't know anyone that feels that way. Or have heard anyone like really have that take. Like the take is like they're suitable and they kind of make sense, but no one's just like, this thing fucking owns, you know?
More content is always a good thing. The thing I've always wondered with Delves from your perspective as a dev and from the team's perspective.
At maximum, Delves are actually awesome. Well, there you go. They're the first one. All right. My whole mind has been changed. Someone in chat said, did you hear what happened to JB? Yeah, actually, can we go on like a little bit of a tangent here and go to J.B's Twitter? Because I'm like super confused about a couple of things here. He tweeted this 11 hours ago. Or wait, it was a couple days ago. Or yesterday. Well, team, I found out tonight that I failed my 9-month trial in my new guild. Probably not enough time to find a new guild before this tier, so we might just take a break from WoW for a bit. Okay, so ignoring the second part, we're just going to talk about the first part. Is it normal to have a fucking 9-month trial? That's insane. That is like so insane. There's no, I mean, we don't even, I'm trying to think of like, we would even do that, but like, we don't really have trials. But, I mean, that's like multiple raids. Like, that means you've done a tier of progression with someone, and then another tier of progression with someone. And by that time, you were like, I'm not sure. How can you not be sure? The only thing, like, basically, I don't think there's a realistic reason for a 9-month trial. The only thing that I could think of is it's just manipulating the person. Like, you basically don't want the person in your guild and you're just keeping them around for an option for you, but you're not being fair to them. Unless there's like some specific circumstances with him, because I know he's like a NA player playing on EU and he's mostly Mythic Plus focused, so maybe he wasn't trying to raid all the time and he wanted to be more of a backup player or something, which would mean you're not... I don't know the exact circumstances, but like... Yeah, that's crazy, man. Max, that isn't true. He joined after a Murder Soul progression and then Fated happened. So 9 months was from after a Murder Soul prog until now. Okay, but you do Fated. That means that he did Fated and Nerebar Palace. Just ignore Fated. He did all of Nerebar Palace, right? Like, he was here for that whole raid. I mean, maybe they didn't play him on any bosses. I mean, he sat all of Palace. Okay, well, then he's, like, not even really in the guild, I guess. Maybe he was Giga benched. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? It's not a huge deal. I saw that and I was like, 9? I've never even heard of that before.
Is, you know, it's interesting covering Classic, and we have all these conversations about, you know, game...
Like, dude, really... Like, the whole, like, you need to see someone on progression to pass their trial thing, I honestly think is a pretty high-level thing. Like, for us, there's no amount of farm that could ever, like, replicate world first progression. There's no way to practice this. But, like, if you're going to kill things, like, a month or two in, you can tell from farm. Also, most trials are a vibe check, if we're being honest. Like, you're at least somewhat suitable as a player, and you're not a bad vibe. That's what a trial is. But, like, there's no... I would say in 99% of guilds, you can tell if someone is good enough to pass their trial, not only in farm, but unironically from, like, 1 or 2 raids. really, like in your guild. They're not annoying. They talk enough, or you can tell they're not mute, and they're like doing decent damage or healing, and they're not dying all the time. And then that's like, I don't know. I think like for most guilds, that would tell you what you need to know. So 9 months is just insane.
Dev philosophy and everything, and what's right for MMOs. Should it be a push towards group content? Should it be a push towards, should your MMO have individual content and all that stuff?
Maybe they thought J.B was too likable for their guild. He is well loved by Twitch chats. What does that mean? We have to demote this player. We can't pass their trial because they're too likable.
The data suggests at this stage for you guys at the 6-month phase with Delves that solo content is
it's my birthday, chat.
Gamers want as part of their MMO experience. And I'm sorry, I'm going to weave in 2 or 3 questions into this one. It's just me being an idiot.
I love that. I turned 27 today.
And how do you personally feel about that push and pull between solo and group content in modern MMOs? I say that because we hear about something like, Ashes of Creation in their alpha. The rumors are everywhere that, they really push you into group play. Like it's a bit of a weird game when you're alone. And so I just wonder how...
It's like all MMOs. Bro, playing... Really, most games that I can think of nowadays solo just sounds crazy to me. Like WoW, if you truly had 0 friends in WoW and you played as a truly solo player, this game has to stink. But like when you have a group of people that you like playing with, this game fucking owns, Like same thing in like, I don't know, like a battle royale game, bro. If you got a couple of people to play battle royale, like queue duos, trios, or squads with, that's sick. But it's psycho to play those games solo. So I feel like games pushing you into group play is good because they know what makes their game good. Like it's like kind of a paradox, right? Like you want to make the game better for solo players, so it's better for solo players because that's like the weak point, but also that your game's strong point is getting people to play with groups. So pushing people in that direction in your design totally makes sense. Obviously there's a balance, but like, I don't know, it makes sense to go that way.
Just feel about that.
That's such an interesting question, because I think if you ask this team that question over the course of 20 years, you would get different answers, right? That's kind of the interesting thing about World of Warcraft in particular, is it's a game that I should look this up. I'm not actually sure. I can ask Aramis or Alex later, of just like, it's been going for a long time. And like I just said, we want to meet the community where they are and provide them with opportunities to play the game in the way that they're excited to play it, right? Like that was one of the things that we talked about a lot in Shadowlands, is there was essentially rewards were driving players to feel like they were required to do things that they didn't want to do. So ultimately our goal is to, give players a suite of content that is exciting and compelling to play, and then let them kind of choose. It's one of the best parts that I love about modern World of Warcraft is there's so much content in the game, and you can only play like 10-15% of it and feel like there's just endless content for you, whether that's PvP or Delves or Mythic Plus or raiding. It's kind of a menu of options that you kind of can choose from.
But are the numbers? Sorry to interrupt. I want to rip this tangent away and just
sure.
Sorry, not that wasn't a tangent, but I get what you're saying.
Okay. So opened up some random chatters thing. I've been following for a long time. They on January 4th of this year, they said blue collar workers dunking on kids. I don't know why. But today, with zero context, they just typed, "I'm like a feral bobcat fueled by fettuccine alfredo and ketamine, holla at ya boy," with zero context before or after that. I don't know why I just thought I'd point that out.
But do the numbers
that's fucking crazy shit right there. Love that you guys were fully vindicated in introducing this content to the game? You're like, oh my god, everyone's doing Delves.
Delves
dudes
are
eating
very
ketamine
popular.
Alfredo.
I can't share specific
No.
numbers,
But just the
Delves
vibe.
are very popular, right?
Yeah.
And,
okay.
And there are definitely, and from what we've seen, there's lots of different audiences within World of Warcraft, like I was just alluding to. Yep. But specifically, there are definitely people who love the outdoor world. They love questing content, and I always joke, that world quest that you do right when you hit max level is no harder, a week, a month later when you've got way better gear. right? So if you're a player who loves that content, doesn't really have time or is stressed out by group content, and you want to have a bit more of a challenge, Delves provides you with that challenge. And you said you mentioned you check Reddit a lot. Like I think every week see people posting, they're killing hard mode Zekvir, and they're like,
I think
I've never done something
that's
this
all
hard.
they post now on the sub.
Is Reddit like Twitter, where like you only go there to see the super negative shit, but there actually is people just posting on Reddit that they killed Zekvir and they're like, this is the best day of my life?
World of
yeah.
Warcraft.
That's good. I'm glad people are smart enough to actually peruse those subreddits and not purely just look at the absolute doomer shit.
But it's like, hey, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a person who, this is content that now provides them with a new challenge, a new goal that they can chase. And there are
That, and I just got some rare mount type posts. Dude, I need to get some of that in my life. I need to like watch people get those kind of mounts and shit. Because like, if someone looted some crazy mount and felt like they wanted to post about it on Reddit, do you know how fucking happy they are? They're probably like, I probably couldn't remember the last time I was as happy as that person is that they decided to do that. And that's nice.
some people for sure that were playing Mythic Plus, and maybe that wasn't actually what they wanted to do, but because they wanted the highest gear level rewards, that was the only option. So Delves now provides alternatives for that player type. So ultimately to reflect and to answer your question, yes, we think Delves have been really popular. We very much want to continue to support them and are really happy with
we're gonna skip.
Fantastic.
We're gonna skip the player housing development track, and we're gonna hear the question about UI and weak auras, and then I'm probably gonna. It's my birthday. I want to get the fuck out of here.
Okay, real quick.
I mean, I wanted to say hi to you guys. That's why I streamed in the first place. But like, I'm not trying to stream all day.
Rumors are afoot of a
Turned 26 today.
update involving something akin to weak auras. I'm not sure if you guys have officially said anything, but stuff is out there. Look, if you were to do this, would the plan be to how do I say this? Are you trying to effectively, not that this is a thing, but put weak auras out of business, or is this just something easy and for beginners to use if they want to, or are we leaning into weak auras harder than ever in future content?
What?
Wow, that's a big question. In the last minute here, let me see how to unpack that one. I mean, ultimately, our goal with World of Warcraft is to always make sure that players can enjoy and be successful in World of Warcraft without any add-ons. We think add-ons are one of the more interesting elements of World of Warcraft. It's quite unique in the MMO space. We were just talking about identity and players being able to customize their UI in fun ways. I remember going back and looking at like Race for World First videos from the old days. There was someone that had,
and I'm mad. Did he mention the Race World First? Is there a Wowhead thread I can fucking... All right, fucking... Here we go. Oh, I gotta sign in to post a comment, but I would just get so fucking mad right now.
like a My Little Pony UI.
Fuck
and
the
I always
race.
get a laugh
Fucking
about that.
elitists.
But we're always looking to provide players with the best experience with the default UI. I can't speak to specifics of future updates in terms of add-ons or add-ons or UI updates that are not in the Undermined patch, but there are cool UI features in this patch. Like actually, I'm not sure if you saw, but there's a new event scheduler,
Right.
where you can actually look and find a lot of the events that are up in the world, because we've heard a lot of feedback in the past about how, hey, there's all this cool stuff happening.
Oh shit! Like the play event or whatever. I don't even know the names, but like, if you can see when the events are happening in the world on some list, that would be fucking insane.
And I have to Google it essentially to find out what's available right now, where to go. What does it reward?
Yes,
Those are always things that we hear questions about, and we're always looking to improve the default, World of Warcraft experience that essentially comes out of the box. And being able to.
So he's trying to put Wowhead out of business.
Is something that we've also heard a lot of feedback on from our players.
So they didn't answer anything about UI and weak auras. I mean, they don't need to do a lot. They've made the base UI a lot better. They need to add debuff and buff blacklisting and whitelisting. On your player frame in game, you need to be able to separate your health and your resource bars and be able to individually resize and move those on your screen as part of the default game. And like, you need to be able to, like, the one thing about weak auras they need to add into the game is the ability to like pick one specific debuff that a boss is doing, and you could even do this in the fucking dungeon journal. It'd be so good. is you can be like, I want to highlight this. And when you get that debuff, the base UI will make it super obvious that that debuff is happening or it'd be so good. And that's like the main reason weak auras is prevalent at all. That would remove the need for stuff like that immediately.
How they would appreciate other tools. So that's very much feedback that we are taking to heart, and maybe
Like another thing is like the buff bar. Yeah, the buff bar is super illegal. Like the reason these weak aura packages are really nice is like things glow and like you see when things are proccing, because actually tracking your buffs is nonsense because you just have 100,000 buffs at any given time. But if you could white and blacklist them to only see the buffs you wanted, it'd be great,
in the not too distant future, you could hear something about that, but nothing to announce specifically today.
Okay,
last
cool.
30 seconds. The guys will, I'm sure, appreciate that I will wind this up. Look, this is the last one, tough one. Quickly, look, you mentioned the crest overhaul before. Just in regards to that one, when there's a simple, like, on the face of it, tweaking of the numbers to a system like that,
What are you talking
not
about?
changing content per se. It's just, we'll have these rewards drop here in X amount, blah, blah, blah. That was called for some time through Mythic Plus. Why is it that sometimes changes like that do seem to be quite late? Is it like a House of Cards type situation, or what's the deal?
I'm not even going to listen to the answer to that. What a fucking question. Oh my god. Dude. Look at Morgan. Morgan's like, what the fuck? Oh man. He's asking why crest changes took so long. I know what he's asking. He's just asking it in the worst possible way. All right, anyways. Yeah, I'm about done with that interview. That's hype. All right, so tomorrow, guys, at least I'm going to do the tanks and the healers tier list with the community thing. That's going to happen tomorrow. I might do all of it, but I don't really want to do all of it in one day. It's a lot of work. My job's very hard. It's harder than most of your all's 9 to 5. But really, though, I get like my mind gets fried if I do it all in one day, and I have a playoff game tomorrow night, and I don't want to be bad at it. So I'm probably going to do like half of it tomorrow and half another day. So yeah, that's it.